We've all noticed it by now. We played a few games, well, some was more than a few, and something feels off. Things just don't happen the way they should, the way we think they should. Season 16 almost feels cursed, like you're in the Twilight Zone now. In this video, I will pinpoint the reasons why Season 16 feels uncanny, and why Riot won't be able to fix it. My name is Azzapp, and I'm a multi-season challenger from US, North America, and even Korea, and this is what's wrong with Season 16. First, a word from our brilliant sponsor, Professor. One cool thing to help you focus consciously would be Professor, which is the sponsor of today's video, and it's absolutely free. It's a great tool that teaches you the game and helps you focus on certain aspects. You can look at your own stats, you can compare yourself to other people, you can even look up your own teammates, come up with plans, and practice your pre-lobby mentality, come up with different strategies, ideas, different contingencies for plans if they fail. Let's say if you want to play around your Kog'Maw based on the comp, but your Kog'Maw kind of looks like he's first timing, he doesn't know what he's doing, so sure, you're gonna play theoretically correct, but then modify if you see him completely failing in that game, and then modify the strategy to improve your win chance. That's just a very, very good outlook on the game. Also allows you to look at different professional player replays, which is incredibly valuable for you to become a better player. So yeah, check out the sponsor in the link in the description below. Okay, so first things first, we want to parse what is illegitimate grievance versus legitimate grievance. For example, a lot of people are saying, my champion is so bad, season is bad. Power shift is perfectly natural in these cases and to be expected between roles and champions. What we here are after is understanding of the principles that govern such change and whether they lead to positive, neutral, or negative outcome. That also means we have to somewhat agree on what is a positive or negative shift. For example, duration of the game can be considered both. I would prefer slightly longer games with more tactics involved. Some people would prefer faster brawler games. Okay, now funny thing about the game length in Season 16 is everyone kind of agrees that the game is a lot faster. It's ADHD Zoomer season with just a bunch of fighting. Whereas if you look at the data Riot has just released, the game average is about 1.5% longer than before. This is very curious and counterintuitive, but it makes sense when we think about all the changes. So let's go through them and see what makes this season feel cursed, both in-game and matchmaking related. One of the coolest changes in the game that I think a lot of people agree would be plates being on all turrets and not falling off at 14 minutes. That way it's less gimmicky. It feels good, it micro-doses the rewards instead of having to rely on fully committing to one side and cashing out the entire turret, which is very hard to synergize with the solo queue teammates. But it still withholds the ultimate turret destroying reward at the very end, which is actually destroying the turret. When you destroy the turret, you take a lot from enemies. You take away their vision, their bastion of safety and control of that area. It feels satisfying and less gimmicky than before without meaningfully changing the game. It's just somewhat of an optimization. On the other hand, turrets respawning at 40% is not that big of a deal, but it adds up with a lot of different comeback mechanics being removed from the game, which we'll touch on right now. One of the major reasons why the season feels cursed is that the games last long, but also consist of a lot of fighting, which doesn't really change the outcome of the game. Usually better composition will win, barring major player differences, and here's why. Flower petals and Atakan being removed is a major blow to the losing team. Collecting flowers is less costly and more rewarding if you are behind, while Atakan is a very, very difficult objective to take, and it doesn't even win the game right after if you take it if you're the winning team. So it would offer a nice chance to punish the enemies while they were trying to take it. That way you could facilitate a very, very beautiful comeback. Baron has been pushed to 20, which doesn't instantly win the game anymore due to shorter death timers at the time of taking the Baron, and less gold yield, but nevertheless it solidifies a lead and blocks the losing team. What I mean by blocks the losing team is very important to the cursed state of the game. Now we're getting to the real meat of the problem. All the changes I've mentioned compound in some way, but none of them as much as the new Home Guard's move speed and minion speed, also adding on top with the role quests. These directly dictate the tempo of the game. So what ends up happening is you are destined to play your very own role where you belong in early game due to role quests. So usually for about 14 minutes, you're stuck there with less tactics, less roams, less objectives. That rewards the team with the better draft, disproportionately, as there are less ways to subvert the status quo. Killing enemies in lane means less, as they come back much faster to the lane than before, especially if they were the ones who were ahead in the first place, again benefiting the status quo. Let's imagine enemy team has better champions, and our champion combination is doomed to stay defensive, so we can't really contest them out in the field, we're turtling somewhat. So we make some great moves and rotations, we catch the enemies and we punish them. We got 2 kills, even shutdowns potentially, beautiful. Now, because they have their lane super shoved, they will arrive that much sooner to the lane to lay their suffocating siege on us again, because the home guards now go to the right up to the minion line, the line of scrimmage. Minions are relentless and are knocking on our doors at all 3 sides. After 30 minutes, minions will arrive every 20 seconds, which is a constant tempo check. Losing team has a much harder time to keep it all in check, especially if they're forced to outnumber enemies to win, which is almost every time you're behind. All of these things lead to more predictability within the game outcome, so much so that in a lot of very high elo games, I basically just call out who's gonna win based on the draft, and it usually ends up being that way. So initially you're stuck in your lane because of the quest, then to manage faster minions at 14 minutes, and then to manage even faster minions at 30 minutes. There are only 2 avenues for you to play for, which are dragons and baron. Unless you already stacked a few, dragons are an option in both cases, whether winning or losing, which only leaves Baron, which will very often be fortified by the team who is hard winning. So people's feelings are generally right. It's just that they don't try too hard to analyze and eloquently put it into words. I'm by no means very eloquent, and English is my second language, but I'm doing my best over here to try to figure it all out. The game feels much faster due to constant fighting around these never-ending minion waves and turrets, but the fights are extremely repetitive, with the parameters of the fights barely changing, so it becomes exhausting. Even winning can become tedious, as the most impactful player is the worst one in your team, not the best one. And here's why. You're ahead and winning the game pretty much certainly, but you have to be on every wave. The waves are constantly coming in, you just have to constantly choke the enemies out. The only way you lose is if one of your teammates gets bored and completely messes up fighting 1v3 on purpose somewhere, because you know where all the enemies are. They're completely stuck. So losses like that feel extra rotten. You didn't lose because enemies made a major rotation or a clean play. You can't even admire the enemy's resilience in that case. They didn't do a major objective defense, usually end up losing the lead due to a teammate failing a very basic discipline check. Phalites, I'm only mentioning here as they just add to the feeling of constant combat, which again yields no major result. They're somewhat of a neutral change, but become annoying to contest every time, and the team that has more pushed waves will simply take it eventually anyway. So even if the losing team can temporarily manage to reach them, it leads to no major change. All the changes I've pointed out here serve the status quo, continuing the existence and slowly benefiting the better comp. This is why the game feels more snowbally, but also less snowbally, paradoxically enough. It's more predictable since draft matters more, less comeback mechanics means less clever tactics, less objectives means every objective is contested by the winning team, and less of a chance of cross-map plays. Highest impact is being overconfident and losing, not making a great play. In cinema, when a main character fails to change throughout the span of the entire movie or series, we call it very weak, and deservedly so. If at the start of the game we can tell which champs are more likely to win and they predictably start pulling ahead, then there's very little to play for. This is precisely why the game during season 16 can feel like a slog to go through, and it may feel cursed compared to the previous. So now you can also understand why Riot won't be able to do anything to fix it, really. The maximum they could do is mitigate a compounding effect by just knocking off one of the problems in the change, but overall, without removing the quests and minion speed and home guards, this season will remain as such. One major motivator for the changes could be pro play. In case that it becomes too predictable based on the draft, it will serve as a catalyst for a change. But Riot has already counteracted the draft problem, partially by separating the blue side and the first pick for competitive, which is another clue that leads me to believe that the bigger changes won't occur during the season. That is a very solid change for the competitive side of things, and it very nicely counteracts this problem for us, but kind of leaves everybody else stuck. This is, by the way, all purely analytical, and the game is still very fun. It's just that it pales in comparison to the previous one. And keep in mind that the Atakan with the revive and early feats were kind of broken initially, but this is not just complaining, this is just a fun exercise in delving deeper into the matter and trying to figure it all out. That being said, if I could choose one thing to be reworked, it would be the home guards, then the minion speed. Those things being reverted would, I think, keep the feel of this modern season while also making it much more playable. Another out-of-the-game reason is how the current matchmaking works, with hidden MMR and abstractions on top, with tremendous gains, which causes, and it will further cause, LP inflation from season to season. Nowadays, we are hitting plus 30 LP numbers on 1300 or 1500 LP accounts, which is just absurd, and it will only get worse as the problems compound over the years. Very soon we'll have 1000 LP master in order to reach GM. It's beyond daunting for new players to aspire towards. I've written 2 potential ways to fix this: runaway effect on Twitter, but I'm not going to them here as it's a very niche problem that affects only less than 1% of the player base. I'll make the video needlessly long, so maybe some other time. I hope you enjoyed this video. Tell me all of your thoughts on the Season 16 and how you would try to fix it. See you in the next one, and peace.